Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Fáilte Ó Galéir.
Good evening.
This evening we have an excellent lecture. I'm really looking forward to this by our great friend Michael Whelan here. Meantime, if you just put your phones on silent, please. In the event of follow myself and Anne as we blaze a trail up the steps you just entered and away to the left, or through this door here to my right hand side and away and exit the building. Meantime, we're back here and we have a little donation box at the back of the hall should anybody feel the need. There's no subscription for membership. You're all very welcome here and you're all members of our Historical Society tonight. How you doing, Michael?
Fine.
Nice to see you in a civilian authority. Meantime, back here to Michael. Michael joined the army in 1990. Was that right, Michael? Yeah, 1990. Yeah. 1990. I went on Wikipedia today to see what it said about you.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
Yeah, indeed. Bam. I'm not sure it was a Wikipedia or Wikipedia or WikiLeaks. So you are all right. So as you all know, Michael has brought great honour through his service to Ireland, serving in the Air Corps and serving abroad on several tours with the United Nations. And just so you know, he's received many awards: the General Officer Commanding Irish Air Corps Award, the Paul Tisardier Diploma, the Tallaght Person of the Year for Culture and the Arts. That's not to be beaten. Might make a run for Lord Mayor next time out. And he's very widely published. I'll just give you one little example of my particular favourite of all his works, which you can access through Facebook, etc. The portal, sorry. Yeah, just one little flavour of it. Yeah. The bunker has a doorway in the shade, a portal to the underworld, when the sky is filled with lead, and we become creatures of the dark. That's just a fine little one little verse of that, which is my favourite. So without further ado, I'll give you Michael J. Whelan. What's the J for?
Thanks very much, Ken and the Tallaght Historical Society for inviting me along to do another lecture. As you can see, tonight we're going to talk about the Air Corps Museum collection, which we have been working on for about 17 years now. And a number of people are in the Air Corps, including the GOC, my commanding officer who's over there, and a lot of other people in the Air Corps, and some volunteers, ex-Air Corps people. So there's quite a lot of people involved in this effort to try and save what we think is a very important piece of Irish national, cultural and aviation history. But before we start on that, I'm going to do a sales pitch. If you'd like to support the museum, and I do a good job on the lecture, I have some DVDs there pending or up. It's the centenary which the Air Corps took part in last year. It's a video about that. And then on Golden Wings is the Air Corps history. The other thing is, I'm honoured to be the first lecturer here to have what is it? And the
Tallaght Flag of Unity.
Tallaght Flag of Unity. That's what that is. Do you want to tell them the story and you that behind it?
I think most of them know. The 3 stars on there is for past, present and future, okay? The green part on that is to do with the green mountains and the greenery of Tallaght. And the deer now, in the 17th century, Old Barn House had land from Clotippa all the way down to Watergate, and it was a deer park. And that's what we have the deer on there for as well. It's past Tallaght.
How long did the deer last? How long did the deer last?
Just over a year, because the temperature was too warm for them.
Okay.
They came from Lapland.
Me and Ken were saying it's because all King and all these merry men ate them in the year.
Oh dear.
So anyway, back to the talk. So what I'm going to do is I have about 40 slides. And what I'm going to try and attempt to do is go through the slides and introduce the artefacts, the exhibits, and pin that to the story of the Air Corps and military aviation in Ireland. Also, there's other collections within the Air Corps Museum. That's all the aircraft that you can see there, and the engines and stuff like that. But we also have uniforms, weapons, and the project that I'm working on at the moment is the Oral History Programme. So I'll explain a bit more. That's very important, that project at the moment. So I'll explain a bit about that as I'm going along. So I have individuals of photographs of some people who've contributed to the Air Corps Museum, the Air Corps Oral History Programme. for the military archive. So I have permission to show their faces, and I have permission to tell a little bit about their stories. Just in case I went back to them and they were showing photographs of me last night. So anyway, that's the Air Corps Museum collection. It's in the 1917 hangar. A lot of you have been out there and recognise some of the faces. So my office is down there. This is a 1917 hangar. The roof and the walls are newish. They're about 40 years, 50 years old. But these arches here is where the Belfast Trust on the roof was held at one stage. So it's 1917, so it's 100 years old this year, that hangar is. So it was built during the First World War. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. So just to carry on now with the slides. So I downloaded this off the Defence Forces website, just to give you an introduction to what the Air Corps does, because it's important to do that before you start thinking about what the Air Corps was. So the role of the Air Corps under the Defence Act is to contribute to the security of the state by providing for the military air defence of its airspace. However, in times of peace, it's more usual for the Air Corps to fulfil the roles assigned by government through the deployment of a well-motivated and effective Air Corps. The primary roles are, you can see them there, to support the Army the following ways: observation and reconnaissance, local fire support, command and control, limited tactical mobility, logistical support, casualty evacuation, in support of the naval service, maritime surveillance and defence, national security, economic zone surveillance, protection of natural resources, aid to the civil power, maintaining and flying guard support unit aircraft, observation, reconnaissance and search operations, photographic reconnaissance, industrial explosive escort, prisoner escorts, cash escorts and protection of the airspace. The secondary roles: aid to the civil community, aid to government departments, aid to civil community, recovery and top cover for search and rescue, air ambulance, islands and snow relief, aid to the government departments, ministerial air transport, pollution surveys, forest and wildlife surveys, aerial photography, civil ATC cooperation, assisting in major disaster relief. I know that's just text, isn't it? But behind those lines, there's dozens, hundreds of people in the Air Corps every day doing these things. It's like statistics; they mean nothing until you hear the stories behind them. You know. So every day, if you go onto Facebook or Twitter or any of the Defence Force or Air Corps platforms on the internet, you'll see there's a daily update of the air ambulances or the medical evacuations, the firefighting they're doing. It's on a daily thing, so I think they've saved over 500 people's lives in the last few years, the Air Corps, you know, so you don't hear too much about it, but you want it, that's where you go. So this is what the Air Corps is doing at the moment, but the Air Corps goes back to 1922 in different forms, okay? So this is what they're doing now, but it's a relative to what the Air Corps have done in the past. So just to move on, I want to hit the wrong button there, anyway. Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Okay, so Baldon the construction began in 19, just to give you a bit of a backdrop before we do the exhibit. So it began in 1917. So my hangar, instead of me walking over there, these are the 4 hangars built in 1917. This one here and this one here are still in existence, and this one here is where the museum is located, on the ramp side, okay? So it was built in 1917 during the First World War, the year after the 1916 Rising, when Crown Forces and the British establishment were trying to consolidate position in Ireland. They needed somewhere to train British air crews in safety to go to fight in the First World War in Flanders and France on the Western Front. And how that came about was they realised, or they came to the conclusion that the Germans could reach the eastern seaboard of England, where the industrial heartland was, and also where all the aviation bases were, and they could fly over these balloons and bomb them. So they need to train these people in a safe area. So Ireland, being part of the British Empire at that stage, we weren't neutral in the First World War, we were neutral in the Second World War. But the First World War we were at the war as well, because we were part of the British Empire. So they picked a number of air bases: Tallaght, Baldonnel, Gormanstown, Aldergrove, Collinstown, which is Dublin Airport, where the TDS, the training depot stations that were built, and Baldonnel and Tallaght. Number 23 is Baldonnel, number 25 is Tallaght, which is just down the road here. I'll show you a photograph that in a few minutes. Were built to train pilots and air crews to go to fight in the First World War, okay? So this is, as I said, the Royal Flying Corps. This was the Royal Flying Corps became the RAF in August, November 1918. I think it was just before the end of the First World War.
1st of April.
1st of April. Thank you. Did I say? What did I say? August or somewhere?
Yeah, 1st of April. All full stuff.
So anyway, that's the interior of an aircraft hangar in Ireland, which is what our hangars would have looked like in 1970. They're Royal Flying Corps or RAF pilots or aircrew on inspection there, okay? Just to give you an idea of what our hangar and what the hangars were Baldon looked like back then. And as I said, they built these bases to train pilots and aircrews to go to fight in France. So Tallaght and Baldon were more or less the TDS means training depot station, a built up area like this. By the way, by the end of the 20th century, I reckon there was 55 air bases in Ireland of various types, whether they were airfields with a grass runway or built up things like that. The Curragh camp had an airfield at one stage and went in during the First World War. So various types of airfields and facilities, 55 and quite a lot. But the first 5, as I were listed a few minutes ago, Tallaght and Baldon were used to train boys to do aerial bombing and gunnery. Okay, so that tower there is on the corner of the hangar where the museum is. There's 2 different photographs of it. And basically, I'm going to walk in front of the screen here, sorry. This is the balcony here, you see it there? There's a long drop. So where the signs are on the ground there was supposed to be a rotating target or a moving target on a kind of a conveyor belt. And the map, this target was based, it was like a terrain map, but based on the aerial reconnaissance photographs that were taken on the Western Front by the Allies. In other words, photographs and look what damage they've done on the last air raid and where they're going to hit them the next time. But this is what they were using in these terrain maps to train the pilots to drop a dart from that balcony onto the ground where the sign is on the snow or on the grass there. So that they were static and the target is moving. So it moved like a conveyor belt in Jacobs, you know, the biscuits, something like that. They go like, or they could shimmer it like this, and different altitudes that you were trying to simulate would meant less or more detail on the map. Do you understand? And they drop a dart onto this thing. So they simulated it. There's no evidence that he actually did that in Baldon, but that's what he built that for. Okay, but he did a similar in other air bases around the UK and that. So what I'm trying to show you there is we have this historic collection, but what's vitally important to the collection is the location of the collection. Okay, so Baldon has a very distinct history all of its own. It goes back to the Baldon name goes back 500 years. But Baldon as an airfield built during the First World War was the home of military and civil aviation in Ireland. Did you know that? Aer Lingus started off here in 1936. And Iona, Kildonan Airways started off here in 1930. So military and civil aviation were born in this county and were born in Baldon. Okay, so we had a former general, Brigadier General Ralph James, who was GFC the Air Corps, and he was actually Deputy Chief of Staff of the Defence Force when he retired in 2015. And we interviewed him for the oral history programme, and he told me quite a lot of times over the period that I know him, but he stated on the interview that Baldon is the doctrinal home of military and civil aviation in Ireland. Now it's a big convoluted thing there, you know, but it's actually very true when you think about it. So this is where fellas were trying to go to fight in France and Flanders. We should never forget that, like, you know, Tallaght and South Dublin's commitment to the war in those days. So it was built in 17 and it was handed over in 1922 to the Free State Forces. And a platoon or a company of men marched out from Beggars Bush Barracks, and I don't know when they left Beggars Bush Barracks, but he arrived on the 3rd of May 1922, okay? So, and it was supposed to be the hottest day they had in years, so I'm sure they were really full of good language and very nice fellas. But anyway, so 3rd of May this year, 95 years ago, at Baldon was taken over. So our current General Paul Fry is retiring at the end of June. He's having a stand-down parade. He's retiring on Thursday. So he is going to reenact, apparently, the flag raising of the Irish Free State Forces. This is the idea now. I'm allowed to say that, by the way. in the end of the month, in the end of June, he's going to do that. But I thought I'd bring these photographs. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So this, you see that that corner where the tower is, I showed you on the hangar, that's kind of facing that junction, and that's the original main gate of Baldonnel. So these buildings here is the gym and some of the headquarter buildings on the square, and these buildings here more or less date from 1917. So that building there is that building there with a bit of an extension on it, right? That's the same road. Okay, and I took this photograph last summer, and this is from a series of photographs you have in the collection. And basically, that photograph in the sleeve here, the black and white, is the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland and General Macready, who was the General in charge of Land Forces, the 6th Division, I think it was, in Ireland. And this is just before the handover of the base from the British to the Irish. Okay, so up here past the Guard of Honour. That grass verge is still there, you see it? The little white picket fence is gone, and the flagpole is now in a different location. Okay, but I'm just trying to show you this because the collection we have is going to how to reflect all this history at some stage, hopefully. So the next photograph shows you that same place, but they're a little bit closer to the hangar. And there you see the Lord Lieutenant with his bowler hat. Real distinct man from the period. There's the general and his staff officers. Now, do you see the Guard of Honour there now with the flagpole?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see anything else?
A tank.
Did you know there's a tank in Malone? So, that tank.
What a tank.
Now, I always flagged off this because the barrel's kind of looking that way, so I think he was following. He didn't trust the barrel. That guy never saw him before, you know. So, they're coming up here, and just. General Macready and all, he wrote about this afterwards, like, you know, but see, before the handover, so this is where the gym is, and this camp was attacked at least twice by the IRA, once during the War of Independence and once during the Civil War. But you have a highbrow visitor there, so they needed to show a bit of force there, you know. Tala Aerodrome was also attacked by the IRA at one stage. He actually tried to drive a peerless armoured car through the main gate, as far as I remember the story. So anyway, just to give you a bit of the history, you see the hangar shadow there on the bottom right hand corner? That's the shadow from the thing. It's a very hot day. This is Tala Aerodrome after independence, okay? Just to give you a bit of context about to Tala here. So that's the Bellegarde Road, heading from where the junction at the roundabout is outside the post office package place, heading down towards Newlands Cross. So Jacob's factory is over here. And that's where B&Q, thanks, Ken, B&Q and what's the driving place, sorry?
Alfred's.
Take Arnie's, Michael. Arnie's owns some of those buildings.
That's right, yeah.
And Arnie's were there, they still use some of those original buildings.
That's true. That's much later. So this is the hangars have been pulled down now. There's great photographs of Tala Aerodrome in the library collection here. You can go online and see them. It's very much built up on a par of what Baldonnel is now. But it was handed over, as I said, to the Free State Army. The Free State Air Force never used it as an airfield. They're bell tents that the Irish Army are living in there. Okay, eventually it was handed over to, it was sold to the Irish Chocolate Factory. And now we wasn't alive and Irish Chocolate Factory was in existence. Some of you might remember that. But very famous location in Tala. So the next one. So this is Baldonnel in 1926, and that's what similar to what Tala would have looked like. So the reason I'm showing you that photograph is these two hangars here no longer exist. These two do. So this is a hangar belonging to my unit, and this side of this hangar here is where the museum is located. Okay, and all that stuff there, 70% of it still exists, and all this has been developed. Okay, so it's a historic landscape. It was renamed Casement Aerodrome in 1965. Anybody know why that was?
Yeah. Roger Casement.
Yeah, Roger Casement. His body was repatriated through Baldonnel in 1965. Because as you know, he was the last one to be executed for the Rising, and he was hanged in Pentonville prison, and his body was buried in the prison yard. And after many attempts to get him reinterred back to Ireland, it happened in 1965, brought through Baldonnel. He laid in the church, and then he went to Carver Hill, and then he was buried in the last Neville State, you know, the biggest one since Michael Collins. Okay, so I'll show you a plaque about that in a few minutes, but that's when they renamed it Casement Aerodrome. Nothing to do with aircraft, by the way. More to do with submarines. Don't know using them still. So just more context on the airfield and the location. This is World War II emergency period in Ireland, as it was called. And these photographs I got from Kieran Swords. Remember Kieran? From the library here. Kieran was a great friend of mine and a great friend of the collection actually, and he gave us quite a bit of stuff. So these were 2 photographs we had. And it shows you on the left, Baldonnel. This is Baldonnel on the left, and on the right is Tallaght. Okay, so they'll take you within a few minutes of each other, taken by the Germans, the Luftwaffe, during World War II, reconnaissance photographs. So they didn't know that Tallaght wasn't an airfield at that stage, and they would have actually come up a cropper if they landed the troops on the ground there, because there was apparently a high tension cable going across the airfield. So all of these threads, all these stories are threads of history that belong to Irish military aviation and the Irish Air Corps in particular, but also the landscapes and the stories that are attached to them. Okay, and on the left you have Baldonnel, which is quite a bit bigger now than it was then. So the collections, we're going to go talk about the collection now. The collections we have, or I'm working on at the moment with the lads, is we've aircraft, we've engines, weapons, uniforms, logbooks, photographs, maps, charts, manuals, lots of documentations. We've models, the aircraft, we've medals, oral histories, which is the big project I'm working on at the moment, books, instruments, lots of other aviation paraphernalia. There's lots of personal collections. We've got cameras of various sorts. The cameras that went into the aircraft would have went into the fuselages or into the gun ports for reconnaissance, or the big ones that they took for putting into the floor to take area photography. So it's a big archive of that actually out in Balmain. And then we've got the theme. One of the themes is the movies. You remember the movie period in Ireland, 1965 to 70? The Blue Max, von Richthofen and Brown, Darry Milley. So you had Rock Hudson, George Papard, James Mason.
Ursula Andress.
Julie
Beat you to it. Ursula Andress, which went down a big treat apparently in Balmain. The lads are still talking about her. Right, Tony? Yeah, and what's the other ones now? That was in Mary Poppins.
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews. Yeah, so 65 was George, the Blue Max, so there was an anniversary there recently. Myself and Tony worked on an exhibition on that. And they had a reunion of the flying films, actors and stuntmen and all that a few years ago. So anyway, to get on to the collection, I'm just going to show you the photographs of the exhibition as you move around the museum and talk to you about it, okay? So this is when you just walk in the front door and you turn left to have a look at the first pictures, okay? So that's the big fella Michael Collins there, you all know about him. And below him is the big fella aircraft. Okay, so that was the first aircraft purchased by the Provisional Irish Government on behalf of the Irish people, or the Provisional Irish people, okay? And it was purchased to bring him, the story is that he was purchased to bring him back from the treaty talks in 1920, lead up to the treaty. If the treaty went pear-shaped, he was a wanted man. He knew what he looked like at this stage, get him out of London, back to Ireland. And the plan was to bring him to either one of the race courses, Fairy House, or the Curragh, or whatever, or to Paris maybe. But there's 2 other people involved in that plan, Russell and McSweeney, and I've met the Russell family, and I've seen some of the evidence where they say that aircraft was actually purchased to bomb Westminster or British military installations in London. And even if they had dropped one bomb off the aircraft, let's say onto Westminster Parliament, and it missed by a mile and landed in the Thames, there was a big splash in the Thames. Can you imagine that photograph all over the newspapers, especially in America during the war, or after the war? It would have been a big PR coup for the Republican forces, okay? So that's the big fella aircraft. Doesn't exist anymore. There's one part of a propeller in the officer's mess up there, but we have the story and it's attached to the location there, okay? The photographs to the right of it on that first one is one of the shows you there of Baldonnel. But that's Michael Collins, and the aircraft's called the big fella. You know Devil Laird, his nickname was the long fella. Anybody know why? Anyway. So the Blue Max we're talking about there, we have some exhibits which we got over the years, quite a lot in fact, documents and artefacts. So this is a clapperboard or a scene clapperboard from the Blue Max. But you see on the bottom right hand side there it says Tony Square and S. Kelly. Okay, Skeets Kelly was the scene director. In the movie, later on. I think it was Darling Lilly, was it, with the crash?
No,
And,
a mixer for Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, okay. So what happened was he was killed. There's a memorial for him in the church and the crew. He was killed with an Irish Air Corps pilot who were flying the helicopter with a film crew filming a dogfight scene between two opposing aircraft, German and British, you know. Baldon was making look like a First World War German airfield, but they were filming in various locations around the country, and they collided with the helicopter and they were all killed. So we have this. We also have this on the right hand side, which are machine guns from one of the movies, and they're basically the props from Ardmore, and the bombs there are paper mache bombs. You know, so these are all proper artefacts from the movies, the Hollywood period in Ireland, as you say. So when we get kids into the tour, into the Baldonnel, we walk over to that table there, and we very carefully lift off the paper mache bomb like it's about a ton weight. You know, like this, and I'm handing it to the kids, and shit, that's so they love that, you know. So nice artefacts. You know, that's George Park there, the blue Max still from the movie, behind the machine guns there on the table. See that? But the uniform, we've got quite a lot of uniforms, distinct uniforms from everything from the generals, two famous generals more or less, down to privates, corporals, sergeants, pilots, you name it, we have them all. But this is very important for the Blue Max because that's the flying overalls and the German officer's jacket that a former general who's deceased now, Brigadier General Cranfield, who was a stunt pilot in the Blue Max movie and others flew in. Okay, so nobody else has that stuff, only us, you know, so it's very important. And he died a few years ago, and the family donated all of his uniforms, and quite a lot of material. And I took them out a few weeks ago to take a photograph of them to show you part of the collection that we have there on the movies. Okay, so we're heading up here. There's quite a lot of photographs. On the left hand side there, we're talking about the 1920s up to the 1960s, which covers the independence, World War I, World War II, the jet age, the vampires coming, the movies, and also the Congo airlift. You heard about the Congo airlift, 1960, the first Irish troops to serve overseas because of the location where it happened, which is Baldonnel. So just outside that hangar, the first Irish troops went to the Congo, and over a 4-year period, 26 Irish soldiers died and others were injured. You know? So we're not very good at remembering our military history in Ireland. That's part of it. That's just some of the photographs on the right hand side of different people and events. If you come to Baldonnel, you'll see them, just to give you an idea of what it looks like up there. As I said, we've quite a lot of uniforms. That's some of them on display there. We've pilots' uniforms, firefighters, flying suits, helmets of various types. Everybody that's in the Air Corps, whether you're a pilot, an engineer, a firefighter, you're a soldier first. You come in first and you train to be a soldier, and every year you have to go and get reprogrammed. So you have to go for your weapon and do your training. So everybody's a soldier first. So we're trying to, and hopefully when we do get, there's plans to have a new museum. Hopefully it comes through. We'll have a good display of the uniforms.
And the simulator, the white one.
Yeah,
It's a simulator.
that's a simulator. Yeah, I was going to talk about that in a few minutes, but since you brought it up, that's the simulator for the King Air, which is the Beechcraft twin engine trainer, which doesn't serve in the Air Corps anymore, but they were there for quite a long time. So that's not the facility where it was originally. We took it into the museum there, and the kids love getting inside it, you know, press the buttons. It doesn't do anything now, so press the buttons. Okay, we have two simulators as well. This one here at the left on the roundel is a Lynx trainer, which is an earlier model. So that's the offices where I work on the left hand side behind the simulator. I'm showing you some of the uniforms there. But on the right hand side you see Fitzmaurice. That's Colonel Fitzmaurice, famous for the Bremen flight. You know, he flew the first east to west non-stop transatlantic flight from Ireland to Newfoundland in 1928. So he actually started out his career as an infantry soldier in the First World War, and by the end of it he was a pilot, and on the day he was supposed to go to France to be a knight of the air and shoot down the Germans boat. The war ended, so he couldn't go over. But he's very famous for a lot of reasons, not least because of the Bremen flight. I'll talk about more about him in a few minutes. The aircraft you see in the background is the Avro 19. It's the only one we have in Ireland. It's in the Air Corps collection. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. Why it's important is the Avro Ansons came in 1937. They were the first fixed wing aircraft the Air Corps owned, or monoplane aircraft designed the Air Corps owned. It was also the first aircraft with a retractable undercarriage. This is a later model, it's the Avro 19, and this one dates from 1946. So it's a very important aircraft to have. We only have one, so it's quite unique and important to keep it. It tells a lot of stories, like, you know. So we're looking up towards the entrance of the museum here. On the left you see some of the exhibits. That's the Hollywood stuff there. You see George Park. But you'll see some of the uniforms. On the photograph on the right hand side, that's a Napier Dagger 24-cylinder engine. It looks like a tractor engine. It's a H design. It's the only one in Ireland apparently. There's only 4 of them in existence. The Hawker Hector and the Hawker Hind aircraft, or World War II vintage aircraft. We served them during that period. But what's your man's name that made the tractors?
Ferguson.
What?
Ferguson.
Massey Ferguson. That's the name. Massey Ferguson. Okay. Did you know Massey Ferguson was the first Irishman to build and fly his own aircraft? Okay, so that's Massey Ferguson's. That's his design. And the Massey Ferguson farm club will come down every so often just to make sure that we still have that engine there. So it's a nice piece of history. There's a photograph of him on the engine there. It looks like a combine harbour, so I could use it. But it's a nice engine to have. Okay, this is the other simulator. It's a Lynx trainer. As far as I know, it goes back to the 1930s. It was in service up to the 1960s. Possibly the mid-70s, because there's 2 senior officers who said they used it when they were training in the 70s. So we found that out the back and we restored it as best as we could. It's inside now. But that was it could move around, you know, they could program it. But the pilots got inside that and they were in the dark and they flew by instruments only. And apparently they'd get out of it and their flight suit would be stuck to them with the sweat. They wouldn't be able to walk, you know. So the pressure on them and the heat and all that, you know, because it was big. You know the old TVs with the big valves, that's what's in that, you know, so a lot of heat. The aircraft on the right is a Percival Provost. Came in the 1950s and served up to around the 1970s. And we've got some volunteers in the Air Corps Museum who served in the Air Corps at that time, who kind of keep that in good nick for us now at the moment. Actually, we lost one of them last year, Nick Reddy, but it's a very unique aircraft, very important aircraft to have in the collection. If you ever come out and see it. So this is looking down. We just walked down that way. We're looking back down where we came. So you can see the. Sorry for doing this. So this is the Blue Max stuff here. Okay, I'm looking down towards the end of the hangar. This thing here with the orange nose is a de Havilland Vampire jet. Came in 1956. The first jets the Air Corps owned, and apparently the first that the state owned. Brought the jet age to Ireland. Some people remember them from flying over the GPO during the 1916 commemoration every year. 50. Yeah, but they flew up until the 70s. I think 69, 70 they were flying over the GPO. Various years. But we've got, there's one of them hanging in the National Museum in Congo Barracks from the roof for a Miles Magistrate in Air Corps colours. That's the only one we have in the Air Corps at the moment, and we have the crew looking after it very well at the moment. But it doesn't look right there because I have the nose up. It looks like a shark or something about the voice. Okay. But the thing about the aircraft is that aircraft that came in 1956. It's an advanced trainer. The advanced trainers prior to that was the Seafires and the Spitfires and the Hurricanes, all the World War II period iconic aircraft. Okay. So when they were replaced by the Vampire is a jet that can't land on grass. So that's why we have the concrete runways. So it changed, that aircraft come and changed the landscape in Baldon because they put the concrete runways in. You understand what I'm saying? And because you have the concrete runways in, you can land any type of aircraft there now. But one of the important historic facts about it is they put the runways in 1956 and the American Globemaster aircraft could come to Baldon in 1960 to pick up the Irish troops and fly them to Africa to serve in the Congo. Okay, so nice piece of historical narrative that we're trying to explain to people. So that's the Vampire up close, and just below it is the Goblin engine. Another story behind the Vampire is 2 years ago we lost a former general, the first general of the Air Corps. He was 93 when he died, Jerry O'Connor, lovely man, and he came to Baldon during the World War II period, and he rose to general, and he was the first general of the Air Corps since the Civil War. They didn't have a general's position there until around 1976, I think, or 78, he got it, okay? But he, in 1961, was in that, not that aircraft, but one similar, flying over Cavan, as far as I know, and you had to teach the student how to recover from a spin, an uncontrolled spin in the aircraft. So he went into the spin, he couldn't get out of the spin. So he told the student to eject anti-McPartlin. So when they eject, the canopy blows off and he comes out with his seat. And that's what he did. So your man pops out and he floats down to the ground. And he sees the aircraft going off in the distance. And the story goes that he went up to this farmer's house, this young fella. And he said, "Can I use your phone to ring Baldon? I want to tell them that Commodore O'Connor is dead." Or something like that. But by the time he got to make the phone call, Jerry O'Connor was landed back in Baldon and was down in the officer's mess. And the phone call came through and there was a lovely photograph of this young fella in his flying suit with the harness strapped still over his shoulders, a big dirty smile on him because he's happy to be alive. And the commandant and the camp commander are standing behind him with wry smiles, like, you know. Lovely photograph. But they came back together a few years ago and they pocketed our aircraft and took a lot of photographs. Remember that? It was great, you know. But that was the first and only time that we've had an emergency ejection in Air Corps history. So, because the safety record is very good in Baldon in the Air Corps, you know. The aircraft on the right. Oh, by the way, when he did that, that was 1961. That's during the Cold War. It's a year after the Congo Mission came out. It's also around the time that Gary Powers got shot down over Russia in the spy plane. You know. So think about that. And him going up to that farmer's house with his bloody flares and the woman chasing out with a pitchfork. So the aircraft on the right is the Outlook Cadet. We had that a few years now. That's the oldest Air Corps aircraft we have in existence in the Air Corps. Technically, it's still on the register, it's still fly. The last person to fly was Jim Gavin, the Dublin football team manager. Know him? He was an ex-Air Corps a few years ago. He was a senior flight instructor in Baldon. But anyway, that aircraft came as a replacement for another one in 1934. Served up through the emergency part of it anyway and was given away as a replacement for someone else's aircraft. Basically, during the emergency, they stopped civilian flying aircraft in Ireland. So they took the tail section off them. Okay, and at the end of the war, they got the tail section back in the flying again. Farmers and that used to fly them, you know, out of Cropshire. But anyway, the story is that this person, they couldn't find his aircraft tail. So they gave him that. Okay, and then I think he flew it twice and crashed it. But anyway, it ended up in New Zealand, and about 8 or 9 years ago, it was purchased and brought back to Baldon and flew a couple of times. But it's in the museum collection there now, so it's very important. It's the only biplane, besides the Life Cutters, it's the only biplane we have in the collection. Okay, beautiful aircraft. This is more photographs. There are photographs of the Congo area from the posters. That's the vampire there. Look, I'm just looking down towards the other end of the hangar there. You see the windows? The door from those windows is very historically important. I could tell you stories. The reason I'm showing you that photograph is the roof and the doors at each end are new, but those walls, that floor, those windows are all original. That was built in 1917. Let's just think about that for a minute. 100 years ago, right? During the First World War, we're in the centenary of commemorations. Okay? The amount of people have come through that hangar on that base over the years, families, traditions of families, different people in service. You know, you built that to last the end of the war. The war was 1914, we were over by Christmas. They were hoping that would be over by Christmas 1917, it was, as you know, a year later. You know, and it was temporary hangar on a floating floor. So basically the only thing that's holding up the hangar roof is the only thing that's holding up the walls is the roof, the weight of the roof. It's tied down now, of course, but there's no foundation on the hangar floors, you know. It's never built the last 1 year, and that's listed by the Heritage Council, that hangar, so it's a very important location. Even if the museum collection wasn't in there, but it's a very important building, you know. So these are just to give you an idea of the hangar there. You see these arches? There's a kind of a plinth there on the arches, and there used to be a mezzanine balcony went around the hangar, and that's where the mezzanine balcony hung, but also it held up the Belfast trusses on the roof. Well, I don't remember that now, but I think Tony, you remember that, do you? Tony's the next Air Corps. So below that arches there, you have the Fuga Magister 219. We have 2 Fugas in the collection at the moment. Okay, that's the advanced jet trainer the Air Corps used after the vampires went out of service in the 1970s, and they flew up to 1999 when they were retired and replaced by the PC-9s. Okay, so it's nice to have those aircraft there. I'll tell you not more about them in a few minutes, but the prop, do you see the propellers on the left-hand side? They're World War I propellers. Okay, the one on the top on the right-hand side is a German aircraft propeller. We're trying to get to the issue behind that. The one in the middle, we reckon, was part of a 4-prop propeller. And when the Royal Flying Corps came initially to Ireland in 1913, the year before the war, they flew to Limerick to train with the army on manoeuvres. And in them days, all that aviation was kind of new, so they brought over lots of spares. So when they got a prang in the propeller, when they landed or taken off, they take off the propeller and throw it on the ground and put a new one on. So that propeller was apparently found in a ditch down in Limerick somewhere about 20 or 30 years ago, and ended up in Gormison, and I got it a few years ago. But it's delaminated on the leaves of the wood. So when the kids come in, any engineering students come in, we're able to show them how they laminate and shape the propellers. So I don't think they can do that anymore. The skill has been lost, you know. One of the bottom is from an SE-5A. It was the most popular RAF aircraft during the First World War, and the Air Corps had one of them, and it served during the Civil War. As far as I know, it got burnt out by the IRA. And the four-blade on there is a BE-2B World War I bomber aircraft propeller. So we have some pieces in the collection that would be contemporary to the hangar there, okay? Okay, so the Marchetti trainer there, the green one, came in the 70s and retired around the same time as the Fuga. That was the basic trainer when the Fuga managed to work the advanced trainer. So we've got one of them in the collection. The others were all sold off. And if you ever wanted to see one of them flying, you go onto YouTube. There's one of them flying in America, and there's lots of footage of it. It's an American millionaire in Florida, and he's flying in Air Corps colours. So that's quite a distinct period of it. That represents of Irish military aviation because it covers that period from the 70s up to the 90s. You see the little grey Red Bull thing behind it? That's not an aircraft, obviously. It's a foam dinky, if you like. But a couple of the pilots from the Air Corps last year and a couple of the technicians, they built that thing out of foam. They put wings on it and landing lights. All the Red Bull and the Air Corps insignia on it. And they put one of the pilots in his flying suit with his flying helmet. And they brought him to Cork Hill. And the Red Bull challenge is you have to freewheel down Cork Hill. It's Cork Hill in Cork. And if you don't die, you have a good chance of winning. They came second, I think, but it's in the collection there now for a while. You might do it again next year. Sorry. But basically all that's in that is a bicycle frame with handles. You know?
Could you point out what you're talking about there?
Sorry. I didn't bring the laser, that's it there. See the Red Bull thing there? The little ratings. And he sat in that. And just said a few Hail Marys on the way down. Very brave man. His name is Mohan. I tell him this every day. So anyway, he came second on that, trying to put a lot of public relations with the Air Corps playing on. If you see behind the initial photograph there in the background, the high wing there, that's the Wright Flyer. There it is there. So the Wright Flyer was the first man flight. You know the story of the Wright Flyer, the Wright brothers in 1903. So in 2003, the Air Corps pilots, the young fellas, bought the kit from America and shipped it out to Ireland. And when they opened up, they realised there was too many parts. So they got the technicians in my unit, the engineering guys, the carpenters and a few students, to build it. It took them 3 months to build it in the museum, and that's where it is now. So it's a full-size replica of the Wright brothers. It's the only one in Ireland. I don't know if there's any in England. But if you can remember 2003 for the 100th anniversary, those the Discovery Channel and the History Channel had this series of documentaries going on where they were following people who were building this aircraft and were going to be the first to fly it. And they followed them all the way up to the end, and some of them, very sad, they'd open the hangar doors and the aircraft would turn upside down and smash. You know? So they were very broken hearted. So we didn't do that. Actually nearly did fly once. We were bringing it across the ramp toward another hangar for a ceremony, and there was about 20 of us holding it, and the wind caught it. Just a glider basically, and I lifted it about 2 feet and came down, so thankfully it didn't smash. But Bombardier up in Northern Ireland, I think when they initially, like in 1927, had a contract with the Wright brothers to wheel it under licence, they borrowed it about 8 years ago for 3 weeks, and thousands of people came just to see that aircraft. So if we get a new museum or location for it, that would be a big draw. I know it's not an air car story, but it'll tell you the theory of flight, which is what we use it for, you know. On the right hand side, this engine here, that's the Wright brothers aircraft there. This engine here is a Merlin engine from the Spitfires, okay, and it's a V12, so it's the only one we have in the collection. The air car had Spitfires, Seafires, Hurricanes, all those World War II period aircraft. They are also in some armoured cars. But the lads are adding, the volunteers that come in are adding bits to that all the time as they get them, you know, so it's getting bigger every time, every so often. But it tells about, it exposes a piece of Irish aviation history to students or to historians, like, you know, and it's great to have it. We don't have a Spitfire, maybe one day we will, but it's a nice piece of history. Did you see recently that they doing an archaeological dig somewhere in Ireland for a Spitfire?
Monmouth, up in the north.
Monmouth. Okay. So what they're looking for is that they'll be looking for the plates on the engines and on the aircraft. So if they find the number, the serial number, the plates, the date and plate, they can basically build that aircraft as a historical aircraft. About 5 years ago, Dan Snow, not a historian in Britain, he came over to Ireland and he dug up a hurricane. Dug up a hurricane in the south, and they were looking for the date and plates on the aircraft, on the engine, but he got the guns off it, 3 or 3 guns, and he got them fired straight away. He just hosed out the mud, put bullets in the breech, turned it on, bang, fired it. You know? So another story behind that engine is, during the Battle of Britain, a German aircraft, a Dornier, was coming towards Buckingham Palace and St. Paul's Cathedral, and it was going to bomb, and a guy in a Hurricane aircraft was chasing them, and there's footage of this, there's documentary about it, there's footage of this. He's chasing the Dornier, bang, 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 ban out bullets, the aircraft's still going. So what does he do? He comes up behind it and flies through the tail with the aircraft, slices off the tail of the Dornier, and then he bails out. So the German aircraft's not going to reach Buckingham Palace or St. Paul's Cathedral. He bails out. So 80 years or 70 years later, this archaeological team get permission to stop everything in London City and go looking for this aircraft. And they knew that the aircraft exploded when it hit the ground. So they had to dig down in the centre of the city of London, 80 metres, to find the engine. Because the engine block would have been the biggest solid thing that would last. And when they found the engine, all they were worried about was finding the date and plate, the little number on the engine, to prove that that was the aircraft. And now this is a historic piece of metal that size, and we're going to build this aircraft again, and that will be the aircraft that brought down the Dornier, you know. That's how they do it. So it's nice, just to give you an idea of how important these engines are. That's what story. That's the Wright brothers on the left. The aircraft, propeller on the right, is the nose cone assembly from an Air Corps Seafire, which is the navalised version of the Spitfire. The Seafires were in service in the Air Corps during the end of World War II. The Spitfires didn't come till afterwards, so we had Seafires and Hurricanes in service during the emergency. A lot of them came through war damage. They'd come down, they'd be crashed or they'd be damaged in Irish, come down on Irish territory. The Air Corps would go and recover them, and if they were salvaged, we'll put them back into Air Corps colours and fly them, and then poach them later on. We don't have a Seafire, but we have parts of it. And my first job when I got a trade eventually in 1997 was to do that as a spray painter. And that used to be in the church as a crucifix. We turned the thing, the page around, so it was like that, the church of Baldon, which is a very historic location for that. So you can see on the left hand side there's a smaller propeller. That smaller propeller went on some of the aircraft for target home. So it's a very nice piece of history to have. Basically they stuck that on the fuselage and it wound out a target, and it flew behind the aircraft. You know, these things, you have to be signs behind them, come the buttons, sorry. That'd be flying behind the aircraft, and all the guys on the ground with their anti-aircraft guns would be shooting at the target. So that's how they wound it in and out on that little propeller. Okay, you see your model. See the model there in front of it on the right hand side? That's a flying model, or used to flying model of the de Havilland Dragon or the Uller, which is still, the actual aircraft is still flying on the historic flying foundation. But at the Bray Air Show, you have to search it, all the air shows during the year. So we have that there as a symbol and part of the story of how Aer Lingus started off in Baldonnel in 1926. Okay, that's the Avro anthem, or the Avro 19 from a distance where the Marquette is. And on the right hand side there, with the cowling open, is the Havilland chipmunk. The chipmunks came in 1961, was it? 51, can't remember, 61 it was. But that was the aircraft that they were training, basic training on, when the Provost and the Vampire was the advanced trainer. So we have one left in the collection. We had another one which we gave away 2 years ago to the Historic Flying Wing of the Historic Flight Foundation. They have 3 chipmunks flying around the country and in England at all the big air shows, and they're flying in Irish Air Corps colours, so the exact same livery as that. You know, so they're putting the Air Corps story out there, but really it should be up to us to do that. But we have that one there, so when we get to the museum, that'll be a good exhibit to have. So that's the Avro 19, as I said earlier. 2 weeks ago, we had, well no, it was more than 2 weeks ago, but 2 weeks ago they took flight. We had a nest of blackbirds. We thought you were in a different aircraft all along last year. We were trying to watch that, and they arrived and they hung out with that engine there on the Euro. But they took flight 2 weeks ago, so yeah, I had to watch them with the kids coming in, so they were disturbed, you know. And on the right hand side, you'll see a poster there of the aircraft. The helicopters came in 1963 to Baldonnel, the Alouettes. You probably remember them. Quite a big record, a good record of saving people's lives, search and rescue and all that kind of stuff. So we have different helicopters now in service, but the Alouettes were a big part of Irish military aviation history, especially aircraft history. So just to go back to the early days, these 2 guys here, can you see the photograph on the left? That's Russell and McSweeney. McSweeney's on the left and Russell's on the right. They were the founder members of the Irish Air Corps in 1922. In their early 20s, and you had high ranked generals and commandant general. And how they started off their careers were, both of them joined the RAF and fought in the First World War against the Germans. They survived the war and came back to Ireland, and then they joined the IRA and they fought against the British Army. And then the Civil War started, and they joined the Free State Army and fought against the IRA. And then you were found as members of the Air Corps. So they're important, very important, because when Michael Collins was in London and they wanted to get back, the 2 people they relied on to go and purchase the aircraft on the orders of Emmett Dalton and Ned Roy and the provisional government was those 2. So they went over, purchased this aircraft. The guy on the left, McSweeney, let on to be a Canadian logger, and purchased the aircraft, and Russell came back to Ireland and he was in charge of getting the runways ready if they had to come in an emergency. Would that be 30 years? 63. Yeah. The anniversary of the Alouettes coming, all the guys in the unit, the helicopter unit, one of the guys painted up this tail drum and they all signed it. Okay, so some of those guys have passed away now through accidents and injury or natural causes. We've also got a later one for the stand down the Alouettes when they were sold off, and some of them did that. And on that tail dome we have, well, 3 names are the 3 guys, 2 of them that were killed in the helicopter crash in Mayo a few weeks ago. I signed that, and then another guy who, a few days before they were killed, they were at a funeral. Another guy who was an ex-Air Corps fellow, Dave Carter, and his name was on it. So these are coming into kind of little memorials, you know what I mean? Little memorial things. So when fellas are coming in from 20 years ago, or from 10 years ago, they're asking to see these things so they can see not their own names, but the names of those fellas, like, you know. So that's another thing, there's the emotional connection to the collection and to the Air Corps story. So that's the later one of Penny with 211. See all the names on it? The 2 guys who were killed in Mayo, their names on it. That's the interior on the right hand side of the Avro 19. I know that looks like a bomb or a shell, but that's actually the back seat, back of the back seat. So that's the interior of the cockpit of the Avro 19. Sometimes I sit up there and I read poems. It's always on my lunch break though. But I sit up there and it's a great, the smell of it is amazing, you know, the smell of history and the sense of it, you know. And I don't know how they flew in that aircraft during the 40s. It does the same similar job that the cars, the big blue cars are doing over the coast now, you know. But that thing's like paper. I'd say it got shook around big time, you know. So that's a great piece of aircraft history to have when we get in the museum. Okay, so we're getting close to the end now. So personnel, right? These guys here on the left, you've got Dennis Barry, Noel Murphy, Jerry McCann, Peter McGlynn, and Pat Lynch. They're part of the team who volunteered in the Air Corps. I didn't have them all here the other day, so Tony, you're not that photograph, sorry. So, I'm in front of the camera there. So, there's about 12 of them that come in every week to help out clean up, do restoration, or do any work on the aircraft. And we slag them off. They usually come in the gates, and the lads on the gate say to them on the main gate, there's a corner up in the museum for you there, I heard. So they're like exhibits. But they're all in their 70s, and they served in the Air Corps like in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, you know. And they go on like they're in their 40s. I'm 47 next month. I hope when I'm 70 that I'm like that, you know. So it's great. And the comparison shot is on the right hand side is a Bristol fighter in the aircraft, but there are some of the first pilots in the Air Corps. That photograph is around 1927. So you see the guy in the middle with his hands on his shoulders.
Hips.
Hips, what do they say? Shoulders. Anyway, that's Fitzmaurice. Fitzmaurice who came through the trenches and who, interesting story because he joined the army underage. The father and mother dragged him out. He went back in. He ended up in 19 years old in the Somme, I think it was. And there was such a high attrition. You know the Schwaben Redoubt, you heard the Battle of the Schwaben Redoubt in the Somme? Yes. Very, very dangerous battle. He fought in there. Most of his compatriots were killed. They were looking for people to get promoted up the ranks. He became a sergeant. But how he got promoted to officer was he fell during a strafe from the trenches. The story is he wrote about it, that he fell into the bunker, into a shelter, like a bomb shelter in the trenches. And when he stood up to clean himself off, there was a general having his lunch. Eating at the finger. Having his lunch, he stands to push himself off, the man's there. He goes, oh, I'm very sorry, who are you? I'm Sergeant Corporal Fitzmaurice. That's grand, had a chat. A few months later, they have an advert. They want to promote people from the ranks, experienced soldiers, to become officers, because the officers, there's a high attrition rate, a lot of the officers are being killed off very quickly. So he goes to an interview, and who's the guy in the interview? Or this general. And he's still eating his lunch. So you remember we had a chat, that was grand. And then in 1917, they're promoting people to become pilots from the ranks. And what happens, he goes to do an interview, and he was on the interview where this general. So he gets to become a pilot, and as I say, he didn't get to fight in France, but he had a illustrious career after that. He was the first man, as far as I remember, to fly across the Channel, night flight into Europe from England. One of the jobs he had at the end of the war was to fly around the air bases in England and shut down the air bases, sell off all the aircraft, all the equipment, pay off the troops, demob them, and then fly to the next base and do the same thing. All that comes up. Then he came back to Ireland, was commanding officer of the Air Corps, and then he flew with the two Germans on the Bremen across the Atlantic, putting Ireland on the aviation mantle, because he conquered the Atlantic by air, okay? So the guy on his right, or his left, this guy here is Delamere, shot down during the First World War, became an Air Corps pilot, and during World War II, he's the guy that drew up the air defence plans to defend Dublin from the Germans and the British and the Americans during World War II. This guy here is, he was killed in 1933 in the Phoenix Park. He won the Croix de Guerre. What's his name? He won the Croix de Guerre from the German army for bravery during the First World War. He shot down so many enemy aircraft, and he came back. And on one day during 1933 in the Phoenix Park, 3 Air Corps pilots were killed in accidents, and he was one of them. So he survived all that period, fought during the Civil War, and he gets killed in an accident. He's buried in glass now. Okay. I'm not going to go too much into that photograph. So the reason I'm showing you those things there, the personal and the photographs, is we have a photographic collections out there as well. These guys on the left here are the Air Corps Pipe Band who in 1961 went to the Congo, and while they were in the Congo as the Air Corps Pipe Band, they actually had to do armed patrols into the jungle. So the Air Corps Pipe Band was going out on fighting patrols and all that kind of stuff. And one of them, what's going on there?
Battery turned down.
One of them actually volunteers in the museum now, and that's him with General McKeown on the right hand side. General McKeown in the Congo, Frank Donald, and get off there. Okay, so he's at 81 now, and he's volunteered in the museum, and you think he was in his 40s. Right? So that's Fitzmaurice on the right hand side, who I told you about a few minutes ago in the swashbuckling photo. He thinks he's Douglas Fairbanks Jr. photograph. So he flew to Brennan from Baldon, and 36 and a half hours later they landed in Newfoundland on a glacier. How long does it take to get to New York where he was heading now? 6 hours, 5.5 hours. 36 and a half hours later he got there. And he came back to Baldon in 1962, a few months before he died. And that's him on the ramp looking at the Havilland Vampire jet. So he was a pioneer of Irish aviation, wasn't he? And now he's looking at that 50 years, 40 years later, one of the jets. He's half blind now, so I probably couldn't even see the aircraft. It's flashing rain. I have some of the personnel in the art history. Just to tell you a bit about that, we've interviewed 94 interviews collected, all with the aircraft, individual stories. As I said, everybody in the Air Corps is a soldier first. I'm in the Air Corps 27 years, I've been overseas a couple of times. I've got some of these guys' stories, harrowing stories, and it's amazing because it's very humbling to be the person hearing these stories, you know. We're not at war, but we're going to places where war is happening. And when they're telling me these stories, it's very emotional. But I don't think the people in Ireland realise how important this fact of Irish social history and Irish history is, you know. So I had a photograph of the Sergeant Major, the Regimental Sergeant Major in our camp, Spike, John McCormick. So that's who he is, but he's very loud. Look, he's a great guy, but he has been all over the place. But last 2 years ago, he was in Lebanon, and he was nearly killed driving a truck down the road. It was a roadside bomb blew up and nearly killed him. And I have him telling me that story. You know, lots of different things like that. Last year was the centenary of the Rising. I was involved in that as everybody else was in the Defence Forces. I recorded it, I was on the GPO recording it as a witness statement for the military archives. But there's people in Baldon, there's two girls, Leonie and Tracy Walsh, two sisters, with a photograph of them there holding the flag in the number ones and the medals on the GPO, because they raised the flag there on the GPO, you know. On the day of the centenary, the actual, the centenary parade wasn't the day, that was the 27th of April 2016. That day, the actual centenary, I was on the GPO again, and the Air Corps raised the tricolour, which I don't think the Army copped, that they were letting the Air Corps do this. But I copped it, and I stole the flag basically. I went, took the flag, and I said to the CEO, we're keeping the flag.
It, Michael.
What? We relocated it. So that flag is now in the collection, and the GOC authenticated it, you know.
Safekeeping.
There's all these little nuances and hinges of history. All this stuff is overlapping over the last 100 years, you know. And it's great, and I'm getting to do it in a way, you know. And what's my CEO there, Mick Moore, he's letting me do this. The Air Corps let me do it, but the Air Defence Forces are slowly realising, I think, what they have. But my role here tonight, hopefully, was trying to introduce you to our history in the Air Corps through the collection. I hope I did that. So I might have missing out a bit there, the photographs, because the battery died, I'm sorry. But anyway, to see the DVDs there, last year our crews filmed the Air Corps rolling centenary, the overflight of the aircraft, all the marching, the preparation, everything. We have a photograph in there of a guy called Gerald O'Brien. This will just show you about air history in the Air Corps. Gerald O'Brien is a flying instructor in Baldon. He flies the PC-9s. And he's the guy that led the parade on the centenary last year. Remember the first fella in the blue uniform with the tricolour under escort? He led the parade. But that was in bits after it. But he is the great-grandson of Captain Brewer, who was a 1916 fighter and was killed in Civil War. You know? And he's got brilliant history, and I've got his oral history and the family's oral history in there, you know. So what I'm trying to say to you is there's all this stuff, it's a mishmash, and I'm trying to scratch the surface and get it out there, you know, and it's great. So you can come to the Air Corps and have a look at the collection. Hopefully someday in the next while we'll have a proper museum and you can come out and see it in all its glory. So hope that was okay. You can buy the videos there at 10 minutes.
So we used to work before about 40 years ago. I used to watch the planes going around when they were training, and it was actually one of the wing fellas just across the road at the head of the helicopter. Used to hang off the wire.
Yeah,
he was saying that we have couples up there in the roof at the moment.
I don't know about that. I mean, that's all before the trouble is, you know, so I'm sure there was a lot of stuff going on back then, you know. Sorry.
What is the chances of being disabled?
Well, the Irish Aviation Authority are funding the idea of an aviation museum. So I can't really tell you much more than that. So I hope it happens. I really do, because that's my dream. You know. But I want the Air Corps to story to be the Irish Aviation Story. The Irish Flight Foundation will be doing aviation all over the whole aviation story, which is important. But the Air Corps is a very big part of that, like, you know. So that's why my anxiety is that the Air Corps military aviation history is told. What's that?
Have we say a couple of museums together as one make it?
Well, their idea is to have a big aviation experience and have a small section of it as a museum, I think, and have. But that's not enough as far as I'm concerned, you know. They want stuff to fly, basically. Where some of that stuff, I mean, I'm afraid of breaking. To fly, you know.
We visited with you and we had a brilliant day out with you, Michael.
Yeah.
How can somebody
You write to the station commander and
email?
Or email them. You'll see it on the website there, and they sort something out for you, you know. It's only open during working hours though at the moment.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to, when you're going up, you have to give a list of, say someone's driving up in a car so you can park, and then if they don't turn up, it's hard to get permission for bringing another car, all this carry on.
But no, there's usually groups that come up. You're not going to get 20 people in one car, you know.
I know.
It's a bus, you know, where, look, there's ways around that. We had 6,000 people, non-military people, visited the museum last year. And most of the people that come to Baldon get a tour of the camp, depending on if there's security going on or there's whatever day of the year it is. But it takes them nearly 2 hours to get around the place, you know. So the Air Corps is very friendly with that, you know.
Yeah, why are you not allowed over near the helicopters?
You want to get your haircut? No, your helicopters.
Just the last time we were up at it, they said no, not to go over near the helicopters.
Was it out in the ramp?
Yeah.
But that's dangerous. If it's in the hangar, you bring you over to the hangar, to the helicopters, and you sit in them, they're not supervising, but you won't be out on the ramp. That's a dangerous area, like, you know.
No, we were in before with them.
Yeah,
we were.
Yeah.
We're not outside, no.
Yeah, no, you won't be out onto the ramp now, unless there's a small
we were
group
in,
and somebody's
showing us.
Yeah, so I mean, that's not a regular thing. There's a walking area, it's dangerous, like, you know.
A lot of buttons that could be pressed.
Yeah, protection seats. Yeah.
You mentioned quite a bit there about school children.
Yeah.
What is the situation? Do you bring school groups?
Yeah, usually the school will contact the Air Corps and they'll arrange a day for them to come in and you'll have people supervising them. Like, I think it's at least one adult for every 2 children has to come. It depends on the size of the kids, like, you know. The older they are, they need a bit more supervision. But now this happening every day, it is, like, you know. So, sorry, go ahead.
2 questions. The first one is on the oral history.
Yeah.
Do you intend to make any of that public, like, say, putting it on the web?
Yeah. That oral history program has been run with the military archives. Okay, so the plan is by the end of this year, and I'm allowed to tell you this because I asked, by the end of this year they're going to have a launch of it. Now it's going to be a continuous operation. So they will let out some of it by the end of this year as an example of it, you know. And the idea is wherever they release will be accessible, the whole interview, in the military archives, but they're going to put up samples of each one. So you might have 15 minutes, like most of the interviews I'm doing are between an hour and a half and 8 hours. So
when you're interviewing, is it video or?
No, it's just audio.
Audio.
Which is better. It's much stronger.
Okay.
So they want to release what I do in the interview yet, and I use the interview and make a search engine about what you're talking about, your career years and all that kind of stuff. Take a photograph of you, and there'll be a search engine on the website for who you are, your years of service, the period of service, what you did, your rank and all that. And you might have been in the emergency or the Congo, or you've done something particular. That'll all be listed, and then people can see that on the website, and they listen to 15 minutes of you talking about wherever you was on it. But if you want to get access to the whole interview, you go into military archives, they'll sit you down in the booth and let you listen to it. That's initially. In a few years, I think it will be all accessible off the web, you know.
Thanks.
But this is the first time that this has been done for the Defence Forces. The last time they did it was the Bureau of Military History for the War of Independence, 1917 to 21. And there's 1,700 witness statements there of that rebellion period. There's been nothing done on the Civil War, the emergency or later until now. You know. So it's a big project, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Did I answer your question that time properly?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else?
Just on a slightly different topic. Last year, I think 2 Russian bombers sailed down or flew down the west coast, possibly crossing into Irish airspace. Is that an issue that you take on, or are you allowed to say?
I can't get them fellas to interview them. I don't know nothing about that. They went too far for me to come out. That was all over the media. I don't know anything about that. You know what I mean? We'll probably learn about that in 10 years' time when I get to talk to them people. I've a long list of people to go through.
For the purpose of the oral archive, that type of thing, would there have to be maybe some kind of years put on it, like some kind of 30-year rule type of thing? Like presumably,
now, but some people,
some stuff would be
well,
very.
that's not my call. But what I do is I flag things, and the person who's doing the interview will say to me, "Can you just leave that for a few years? I want people to know about it, but wait till that boy dies or something." You know what I mean? No, wait for a few years. But then the military archives have that call as well, because they're saying to me they want everything sports and all. But obviously there's issues there, so they want the story. But if you don't want to talk anybody, but you could be talking about your friend dying, you know, and that's happening.
There, yeah.
But I've interviewed fellas who are talking about being in gunfights in Lebanon and that, you know, and seeing fellas getting killed. They don't want the other person's family to hear that just yet. Either they're not comfortable or it's a bit emotional, but they'd say, "Can we leave that for 10 years? I tell the commandant in town." He goes, yeah, no problems. It's important to have it, and then we'll work on this later on. You know?
Well, that's only problem.
Yeah. You know. Anybody else?
No.
I just want to thank you for the flyover tonight before I came here.
Yeah. I want to raise that actually. I was out in the car park watching it myself. Right. Alright, so thanks very much for that.
It'd be very remiss of me if I didn't mention what the awful events of Manchester. So whatever any of you believe in, when you go home this evening, we all just have a few positive thoughts towards the survivors and the awful tragedy that took place there, whatever we all believe in. And in the meantime, everybody, wish all a safe journey home. Our flag is on display there, the Tala flag of Unity. Anybody wants to get a photograph of it. If you want to talk to any of us about its meaning, myself and a couple other guys there will be all around the place to do all that for you. Good luck, God bless, safe journey, slán
I'll give you that thing that you have to look at.
Well, I'm 35 through.